Can you make a living renovating vintage campers? More and more people are getting into RVing. They're looking for projects to work on, and the prices on these have gone way, way up. Yeah, you make $9,000 on it. That's a pretty good profit. Wait. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we're very, very close to the completion of the renovation on this 1968 Playmore Model 140. Thanks for pushing us over 1,000 subscribers last week. Definitely unexpected when we started the channel, but really appreciated. If you've been following along but you haven't subscribed, go ahead and make sure and do that now. And pop a like on the video. It really helps us out, lets us know we're doing a good job. So we're in several Facebook groups that are dedicated to renovating vintage campers. One of the questions that we've seen crop up a lot in the last year, can you make a living renovating vintage campers? It's definitely something we asked ourselves during this process. We're going to consider some of the costs involved in renovating one of these, and at the very end, what it would take to make a profit on that. So of course, making a profit on this is going to vary a lot depending on the type of camper, obviously, the size of it, and also, what's the skill level of the person doing the renovation. So of course I have to put a big disclaimer right up front. I'm not a professional at this. I don't do this for a living. I don't make my living this way. I can't claim that, I know the best way to do this, but I do know the way that I did it, and I think we did a pretty good job. I think. Anyway, let's get talking about what we spent renovating this one. So first of all, obviously you have to find a camper that you're going to remodel. Every one of them that we've ever bought have all been in about the same price range. So this one was $600. Prior to this year, prices had been pretty stable for used campers that were in really, really bad shape. This year, things have changed a little bit. More and more people are getting into RVing. They're looking for projects to work on while they have more time at home. And the prices on these have gone way, way up. Seems like you find a lot of campers that are in as bad or worse shape than this one, but they might cost $1,000 more than what we paid for it. So let's talk about what it took to tear all this down and put it back together into a nice little box that looked like a camper again. I took a bunch of measurements and then I cut some wood, and now it's a camper again? You gotta be kidding me. Big disclaimer right here, most professionals would start with the interior and then work their way back out to the exterior. The last thing being putting the skins back on. And we didn't do exactly that way for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to break this out and talk about what it took to seal it back up into a little camper box again. Tearing it apart doesn't really cost you anything other than, maybe disposal fees at your dump. To put it back together, you have to get some new wood, screws, glue, staples. So the cost for all the materials to rebuild the frame on this, to build the deck that's on the trailer, to rebuild the walls, to put the roof on, all of that came to $1,100 for us. When it came to put the actual skins back on, we spent a lot of time getting them ready, getting the paint stripped off of them. What did we do today? What day is it? Who knows? Actually only cost $400, but it was a hugely time-consuming process, and of course time is money, especially if you're looking to turn a profit on something. So if you're looking to do something as a business, I think it would make more sense to buy replacement skins for these and just start with all new skin. That way you don't have to worry about the trailer framing matching up exactly to the original one, so the skin still fits. You don't have to patch holes or worry about water leaking in. It's just a much more efficient and time-saving process to go with new skins. And we did buy new skin for the next camper that we're going to work on. We bought it from Hemet Valley RV out in California, and yes, there is freight getting giant pieces of aluminum shipped to you halfway across the country, but it's not really that bad, and they were great to work with. Still though, for a 14-foot camper, you can expect, anywhere from maybe $1,500 to $2,500, including the freight, to replace the original skin. So, that's a cost that's just going to factor in, and you just kind of need to think about whether that's a cost that's going to be able to come back to you when you then go to sell the camper. But man, it would make your life so much easier to not have to deal with the original stuff. Okay, so I don't know if you can see what I did there, but this is what we call a screw up. Oh, windows. The windows were not my favorite part of this project, but they are obviously a very critical part of the project, and you want to make sure and have a camper that has all the original windows. Whether they're cracked or not, that's not that big of a repair, but you want to make sure you actually have the frame and the window panes, because replacing these can be hugely time consuming to track down one that will actually fit the right size, or you have to reframe to get a different window to fit in it, and it can be very expensive to buy vintage windows as well. Then you just need to buy all the gaskets and take them apart and reseal them. We spent $200 on window gaskets, and honestly, these windows are a little different than what I thought they were, and some of those gaskets didn't work, so really I'm still working on them. So there'll be a little bit additional cost involved in finishing these, and I'll have to take them back out and do this thing. So yeah, windows are not fun. I didn't like that process, but you gotta have windows, and they are nice. I like vintage windows. I certainly wouldn't really want to replace them with new ones, but you're gonna spend some time on them. And of course, when you're putting windows back in, or when you're putting on your roof rail or J-rail, depending on what your camper has, anything that is a metal-to-metal connection, essentially, you're going to need some butyl tape to make that seal in between there. We spent $75 on all the butyl tape that we use for this camper. I would recommend trying to buy that locally because it's kind of heavy, and you're going to pay a lot of shipping trying to get it. But you're definitely going to want to pick some up before you even consider putting your skins back together. So a couple of other things had to happen before our exterior was really completed. We had to run the electrical before we put the skins back on, and total everything for our electrical system is about $500. I've got a few parts on the way to finish up our converter box and our battery, so there'll be a little additional work on that. But while it cost us $500, that figure can vary a lot depending on what your actual electrical needs are. We don't have an air conditioner, we don't have a microwave, we don't have a fancy smoothie maker. We just have a fan, some lights, and a water pump, and a few outlets, and that's it. And of course, new tires, new hubcaps, $215, one of the least exciting things you can spend money on, but it's an absolute necessity. I do still need to get a spare tire, so maybe another $150 to get that taken care of, but we're good to roll for right now. So here we are in the interior, and honestly it wasn't too expensive in here. So we really only spent about $550 on the interior cabinetry, and that includes like the hardware for the drawers, backsplash material, drawer slides, all of that stuff. As I've said before, I'm not a professional cabinet maker, so I don't really know if there was a better way to do the interior cabinets. Certainly cabinetry can be very expensive. If you have to pay a cabinet maker to make all these for you custom, it's probably going to cost you a little bit. So I'm actually really happy with how our water system turned out, but when it all came down to it, it wound up being a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be, but it was only $255 for the faucet and the pump, the 2 tanks that we have below, and all the fittings. We were able to reuse the sink from the original camper, but honestly, sinks aren't too expensive if you had to replace that. And I should say about the water system, like a lot of other things, it can be highly variable. You know, if you have a shower, if you have a toilet, so you could wind up spending a lot more money, and you could also do a much more complicated, simple system like this and wind up spending a lot more money too. So when it comes to the interior lighting, we really didn't do a whole lot because it is such a small camper, although it really feels a lot bigger than I expected it to once we got everything in here. We did a little sort of reading lamp in the back and also in the front, and then we did a under cabinet light right there. Those came to about $75 for all of those. Another thing that wound up costing kind of a lot more than I expected it to, especially as a DIY project, was all of the cushions, the window shades, but we spent about $415 doing the mattresses and doing the shades. So the grand total of our project came to $4,530. So if we assume maybe just a few extra costs here and there, and probably round that up to $5,000, to do a complete renovation, I think that's not a bad cost at all. Can you make a living renovating vintage campers? Yeah, I mean, some people do. I know that for certain. And what we hear from those people that do this professionally is that to buy a renovated camper, you should always consider about $1,000 a foot. So 14-foot camper would be $14,000. So if you spent $5,000 renovating a camper, you sell it for $14,000, which in today's market probably wouldn't be too difficult. Yeah, you make $9,000 on it. That's a pretty good profit. Wait. One thing we haven't considered in all of this is what is the cost of labor. So, you know, how long does it take you to actually do these renovation projects, and you know, how much income do you want to actually make off of that? And that's going to vary for everybody. I think if you're a hobbyist though, and you just really enjoy renovating one of these, to spend a year or however long it takes you to do one of these, sell your project and you get $9,000 back, you know, I think most people would be pretty happy with that. I mean, honestly, I would be pretty happy with that, but it's not enough to live on. It's not enough to support your family. Certainly not full-time. But there's maybe one additional exception. I know there are some companies out there that renovate these into serving trailers, kind of like food trucks, you know. And they tend to go for $30,000 to $40,000. And I think you could probably make a living doing that, but depends on what you want to do. If I were really going to try to make this pay, I would probably want to have definitely an indoor workspace. You should probably have multiple campers that you're renovating at the same time. You know, all the associated tools, you know, if it makes it quicker, buy it. I really don't see any way that you're able to do this without an assistant. So these costs kind of just keep piling on and piling on. It keeps going up and up and up. So yeah, you know, I'm always looking to learn more about the process of rebuilding those, so I would love to know what professionals actually think. If you do this as a living, leave a comment below and tell me how wrong I am or whether I'm right. That would be wonderful. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I hope this has been a somewhat informative video for you. If you enjoyed this, please pop a like on there, and as always, don't forget to subscribe. New videos come out every Sunday. So I'll see you next week.